Arya Astotara Satta Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai.
Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaura Premanandi.
Ibo.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. We continue our study of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are in the first canto, the 19th chapter, and today's texts are 9 and 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Atrir Vashishtashchavana Sharadvan Arishtanemir Brigor Angirascha Parasaro Gadhi Sutotarama Utatya Indra Pramadhe Madhavao Medatitir Devala Aristiseno Paradvajo Gotama Pipaladaha Maitreya Orva Kavasha Kumbhayonir Dvaipayana Bhagavan Naradascha Atrir Vashishtas Chavana Sharadvan Arishtanemir Brigor Angirascha Parasaro Gadhi Suto Tarama Utatya Indra Pramade Madvadhao Medhatitir Devala Aristaseno Varadvajo Gotama Pipaladaha Maitreya Orva Kavasha Kumbhayonir Vaipayano Bhagavan Naradascha Atrir Vashishtash Chavana Sharadvan Arishtanemir Brigor Angirascha Parasaro Gadhi Suto Tarama Utatya Indra Pramadedha Mavahao Medhatitir Devala Arishtasheno Paradvajo Gotama Pipaladaha Maitreya Orva Kavasha Kumbhayonir Dvaipayano Bhagavan Naradascha. Please chant.
Hare Krishna. Atrir Vasishta Chavanaha Sharadavana Arishtanemir Bragur Angirascha Parasharo Gadi Suto Tharama Uttatya Indra Pramademya Vaho Megdha Tithira Devala Arishta Sheshno Bharadvajo Gautamaha Pippaladaha Maitreya Aurva Kavashah Kumbhayonir Dvaipayano Bhagavan Naradascha.
Atrir Vasistascha Vana Saradvan अरिष्ठनेमिर्भृगुरङ्गिरश्च पराशरो घादिसुतोतरामा उदत्य इन्द्रप्रमदित्मवाहो मेधातिथिर्देवला आर्ष्तिशेनो भारद्वाजो गौतमा पिप्पलादा मैत्रेय और्वकवशा कुम्भयोनिर्द्वैपायनो भगवान् नारदश्च
अर्ति विशिष्टाश्चवन शरदवान् अष्टितामिर भृगुर अंगीरश्च पराशरो गदिस्तो तरामा उतथ इंद्र प्रमदेधमावहो मेधातिथिर्देवल आर्तिशेनो भारद्वाजो गौतम पिप्पलाधा मैत्रेय और कुवश कुंभयोनिर द्वैपायनो भगवान नारदाश्च।
हरे कृष्ण।
वसिष्ठश्चावन शरद्वान् अरिष्टनेमिर्भृगुरङ्गिराश्च पराशरो गाधिसुतोत्थरामा उत्थत्य इन्द्रप्रमदे त्वमावहौ मेधातिथिर्देवल आरिष्टशेनो भारद्वाजो गौतम पिप्पलादः मैत्रेय औरवाकवशः कुम्भयोनिर्द्वैपायनो भगवान् नारदश्च।
हरे कृष्ण। अत्रिर्वशिष्ठ वन शरद्वानरिष्टनेमिर्भृगु अंगिरा च पराशरो गादिसुतोतराम उतथ्य इन्द्र प्रमदेध्म वाहो मेधातिथिर्देवल आर्ष्टिशेनो भारद्वाजो गौतम पिप्पलादः मैत्रेय और्वकवश कुम्भयोनिर्द्वैपायनो भगवान् नारदश्च। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। अत्रिर्वशिष्ठस्यवनाः शरद्वन् अरिष्टनेमिर्भृगुरङ्गिरश्च पराशरो गाधीसुतोद्धरामा उत्थाय इन्द्र प्रमदे मावहु मेधातिथिर्देवलारिष्टिशेनो भरद्वाज गौतमः पिप्पलादाः मैत्रेयार्वाहो कवशाः कुम्भयोनि द्वैपायनो भगवान् नारदश्च।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु। अत्रि वसिष्ठश्चवन शरदा नरिष्टनेमि भृगुरङ्गिरश्च पराशरो गदिसुतो खमारामा उत्थत इन्द्र प्रमदेन बाहु मेधातिथि देवलो अष्टिशेन भरद्वाज गौतम पिप्पलाद मैत्रेय और्व कवश कम्बजोनि द्वैपायन भगवान् नारदश्च। कृष्ण।
Anyone else? So I have to apologize. I was saying Arshtashena. I was saying Aristashena. Sorry, it was Arshtashena. I pronounced his name wrong. I thought there was a dot under the R because of the STs, but anyway. So his name is Arshtashena. So the word for word is actually quite simple. It's Atri to Narada, because this is just a list of names with a couple of chas in there to say and. So Atri to Narada, all the names of different saintly personalities who arrived there from different parts of the universe. Translation. From different parts of the universe, there arrived great sages like Atri, Chavana, Sharadvan, Arishtanemi, Brigu, Vishishta, Parasara, Vishvamitra, Angira, Parasuram, Utatya, Indra Pramad, Idmavahu, Medatiti, Devala, Arstishena, Bharadvaj, Gautama, Pippalad, Maitreya, Aurava, Kavasha, Kumbhayoni, Dvaipayana, and the great personality Narada. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Chavana, a great sage and one of the sons of Bhrigu Muni. He was born prematurely when his pregnant mother was kidnapped. Chavana is one of the 6 sons of his father. Then Bhrigu. When Brahmaji was performing a great sacrifice on behalf of Varuna, Maharshi Bhrigu was born from the sacrificial fire. He was a great sage, and his very dear wife was Kuloma. He could travel in space like Durvasa, Narada, and others, and he used to visit all the planets of the universe. Before the battle of Kurukshetra, he tried to stop the battle. Sometimes he instructed Bharadvaj Muni about astronomical evolution, and he is the author of the great Bhrigu Samhita, the great astrological calculation. He explained how air, fire, water, and earth are generated from ether. He explained how the air in the stomach works and regulates the intestines. As a great philosopher, he logically established the eternity of the living entity, Mahabharata. He was also a great anthropologist, and the theory of evolution was long ago explained by him. He was a scientific propounder of the 4 divisions and orders of human society known as the Varnashrama institution. He converted the Kshatriya king Vitahavya into a Brahmana. Vashishta, see Srimad Bhagavatam 196. So what we'll do is, there are a few of these where it'll mention that we should refer to that purport. So after we read through this entire purport, then in my notes, I'll refer back to these specific personalities which were mentioned in a previous report. Parasara. He is the grandson of Vishishta Muni and father of Vyasadeva. He is the son of Maharshi Shakti, and his mother's name is Adrashati. He was in the womb of his mother when she was only 12 years old. And from within the womb of his mother, he learned the Vedas. His father was killed by a demon, Kalmashapada. And to avenge this, he wanted to annihilate the whole world. He was restrained, however, by his grandfather Vishishta. He then performed a Rakshasa killing yajna, but Maharshi Pulastya restrained him. He begot Vyasadeva, being attracted by Satyavati, who was to become the wife of Maharaj Shantanu. By the blessings of Parasara, Satyavati became fragrant for miles. He was present also during the time of Bhishma's death. He was the spiritual master of Maharaj Janaka and a great devotee of Lord Shiva. He is the authority of many Vedic scriptures and sociological directions. Then, Gadhi Sutta, or Vishvamitra, a great sage of austerity and mystic power. He is famous as Gadhi Sutta because his father was Gadhi, a powerful king of the province of Kanyakubja, part of Uttar Pradesh. Although he was a Kshatriya by birth, he became a Brahmana in the very same body by the power of his spiritual achievements. He picked a quarrel with Vishishta Muni when he was a Kshatriya king and performed a great sacrifice in cooperation with Matanga Muni, and thus was able to vanquish the sons of Vashishta. He became a great yogi, and yet he failed to check his senses, and thus he was obliged to become the father of Shakuntala, the beauty queen of world history. Once, when he was a Kshatriya king, he visited the hermitage of Vishishta Muni, and he was given a royal reception. Vishvamitra wanted from Vishishta a cow named Nandini, and the Muni refused to deliver it. Vishvamitra stole the cow, and thus there was a quarrel between the sage and the king. Vishvamitra was defeated by the spiritual strength of Vashishta, and thus the king decided to become a Brahmana. Before becoming a Brahmana, he underwent severe austerity on the bank of the Kaushika. He was also one who tried to stop the Kurukshetra war. Then Angira. He is one of the 6 mental sons of Brahma and the father of Brihaspati, the great learned priest of the demigods and the heavenly planets. He was born of the semen of Brahmaji, given to a cinder of fire. Utatya and Sangvarta are his sons. It is said that he is still performing austerity and chanting the holy name of the Lord at a place known as Alokananda on the banks of the Ganges. Parasuram, see Srimad Bhagavatam 196. Utatya, one of the 3 sons of Maharshi Angira. He was the spiritual father of Maharaj Mandhata. He married Bhadra, the daughter of Soma, moon. Varuna kidnapped his wife Bhadra, and to retaliate the offense of the god of water, he drank all of the water of the world. Medatiti, an old sage of yore, an assembly member of the heavenly king Indradev. His son was Kanva Muni, who brought up Shakuntala in the forest. He was promoted to the heavenly planet by strictly following the principles of retired life, Vanaprastha. Then Devala, a great authority like Narad Muni and Vyasadeva. His good name is on the list of authorities mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna acknowledged Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He met Maharaj Yudhishthir after the battle of Kurukshetra, and he was the elder brother of Daumya, the priest of the Pandava family. Like the Kshatriyas, he also allowed his daughter to select her own husband in the Svayamvara meeting. And at that ceremony, all the bachelor sons of the rishis were invited. According to some, he is not Asita Devala. Then Bharadvaj, we'll read about him later from Srimad Bhagavatam 196. Then Gautama, one of the 7 great sages of the universe. Sharadvan Gautama was one of his sons. Persons in the Gautama Gotra dynasty today are either his family descendants or in his disciplic succession. The Brahmanas who profess Gautama Gotra are generally family descendants, and the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas who profess Gautama Gotra are in the line of his disciplic succession. He was the husband of the famous Ahalya, who turned into stone when Indradev, the king of heaven, molested her. Ahalya was delivered by Lord Ramachandra. Gautama was the grandfather of Kripacharya, one of the heroes in the battle of Kurukshetra. And Maitreya, a great rishi of yore, he was the spiritual master of Vidura and a great religious authority. he advised Dhritarashtra to keep good relations with the Pandavas. Duryodhana disagreed and thus was cursed by him. He met Vyasadeva and had religious discourses with him. So I'll read the verse one more time, this list of names. Oh, sorry. Down a little bit for the translation, please. Sorry, there we go. From different parts of the universe, there arrived great sages like Atri, Javana, Sharadvan, Arishtanemi, Brigu, Vashishta, Parasara, Vishvamitra, Angira, Parasuram, Atatya, Indra Pramad, Idmavahu, Medaditi, Devala, Arishtashena, Arshtisena, Bharadvaj, Gotama, Pipalad, Maitreya, Arva, Kavasha, Kumbhayoni, Dvaipayana, and the great personality Narada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanamane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Vicharnani Vishesha Shunya Varikshtacha Deshatarne. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vanchakalpatrubhya Chakrapa Sindhubhya Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So in this, I'm not going to read this whole purport. Let me change this view here. And so what I did in my notes, I just put these in the order that they're mentioned in the verse. So it'll kind of be skipping through this purport. So yeah. So first, Atri. So from this purport, this purport, by the way, is when these great personalities were visiting, when Bhishma Dev was giving his final instructions to Yudhishthir. So Atri. Atri Muni was a great Brahmana sage and was one of the mental sons of Brahmaji. Brahmaji is so powerful that simply by thinking of a son, he can have it. These sons are known as Manasaputras. Out of 7 Manasaputras of Brahmaji, and out of the 7 great Brahmana sages, Atri was one. In his family, the great Prachetas were also born. Atri Muni had 2 Kshatriya sons who became kings. King Artama is one of them. He is counted as one of the 21 Prajapatis. His wife's name was Anasuya, and he helped Maharaj's great sacrifices. I also included, so since we went through this list of names, there were some that just weren't mentioned in the purports, but are mentioned elsewhere in Vedabase. So I'll also read some of those. So one of those, so this isn't from that particular purport. One of those is Sharadvan, who's the father of Kripacharya. So this is from a Back to Godhead article that's talking about the Mahabharata. So, O mighty king, once the great seer Gotama had a son who was born with arrows and hence was named Sharadvan. The child was inspired to study in the Vedic texts that teach the military science rather than study the religious texts. Just as by austerity religious scholars master the Vedas, so by serious austerity did that child acquire expertise in all kinds of weapons. So son of Gotama, father of Kripacharya. Then Arishtanemi, who is Kashyapa, one of the Prajapatis, the son of Marichi, and one of the sons-in-laws of Prajapati Daksha. He is the father of the gigantic bird Garuda, who was given elephants and tortoises as eatables. He married 13 daughters of Prajapati Daksha, and their names are Aditi, Diti, Danu, Kashta, Arishta, Surasa, Ila, Muni, Prodavasha, Tamra, Surabhi, Sarama, and Timi. He begot many children, both demigods and demons, by those wives. From his first wife, Aditi, all the 12 Adityas were born. One of them is Vamana, the incarnation of Godhead. This great sage, Kashyapa, was also present at the time of Arjuna's birth. He received a presentation of the whole world from Parasuram, and later on, he asked Parasuram to go out of the world. His other name is Arishtanemi. He lives on the northern side of the universe. So that one was from 198 purport. So we're reading from 196. And then this one was from that one. So now back to 196. Vishishta, the great celebrated sage among the Brahmanas, well known as the Brahmarshi Vishishtadev. He is a prominent figure in both the Ramayana and the Mahabharata periods. He celebrated the coronation ceremony of the personality of Godhead, Sri Ram. He was present also on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He could approach all the higher and lower planets, and his name is also connected with the story of Hiranyakashipu. There was a great tension between him and Vishvamitra, who wanted his Kamadhenu, wish-fulfilling cow. Vishishtamuni refused to spare his Kamadhenu, and for this, Vishvamitra killed his 100 sons. As a perfect Brahmana, he tolerated all the taunts of Vishvamitra. Once he tried to commit suicide on account of Vishvamitra's torture, but all his attempts were unsuccessful. He jumped from a hill, but the stones on which he fell became a stack of cotton, and thus he was saved. He jumped into the ocean, but the waves washed him ashore. He jumped into the river, but the river also washed him ashore. Thus, all his suicide attempts were unsuccessful. He is also one of the 7 rishis and husband of Arundhati, the famous star. Then Parasuram, also known as Renuka Sutta. He is the son, pardon me. He is the son of Maharshi Jamadagni and Srimati Renuka. Thus, he is also known as Renuka Sutta. He is one of the powerful incarnations of God, and he killed the Kshatriya community as a whole 21 times. With the blood of the Kshatriyas, he pleased the souls of his forefathers. Later on, he underwent severe penances at the Mahendra Parvata. After taking the whole earth from the Kshatriyas, he gave it in charity to Kashyap Muni. Parasuram instructed the Dhanur Veda, or the science of fighting, to Dronacharya because he happened to be a Brahmana. He was present during the coronation of Maharaj Yudhishthir, and he celebrated the function along with other great rishis. Parasuram is so old that he met both Rama and Krishna at different times. He fought with Rama, but he accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He also praised Arjuna when he saw him with Krishna. When Bhishma refused to marry Amba, who wanted him to become her lover, who wanted him to become her husband, Amba met Parasuram, and by her request only, he asked Bhishma Dev to accept her as his wife. Bhishma refused to obey his order, although he was one of the spiritual masters of Bhishma Dev. Parasuram fought with Bhishma Dev when Bhishma neglected his warning. Both of them fought very severely, and at last, Parasuram was pleased with Bhishma and gave him the benediction of becoming the greatest fighter in the world. Indra Pramad. So in this purport, it just says another celebrated rishi. I couldn't find anything more on Indra Pramad. Then Asita. There was a great king of the same name, but herein the Asita mentioned is the Asita Devala Rishi, a great powerful sage of the time. He explained to his father 1,500,000 verses of the Mahabharata. He was one of the members in the snake sacrifice of Maharaj Janamejai. He was also present during the coronation ceremony of Maharaj Yudhishthir, along with other great rishis. He also gave Maharaj Yudhishthir instructions while he was on the Ashjana hill. He was also one of the devotees of Lord Shiva. Now, for Arshtishena, this one. Okay, so then there's a list, another list of personalities that were given in the second canto, 7th chapter, verses 43 through 45. I'm going to read the first part of that before the list. O Nard, although the potencies of the Lord are unknowable and immeasurable, still, because we are all surrendered souls, we know how he acts through Yogamaya potencies. And similarly, the potencies of the Lord are also known to, and then there's a list. So the inconceivable potencies of the Lord are known to these individuals. And so Arshtishena is listed among those who understand the Lord's inconceivable potencies. He is an expert singer among the Kimpurushas. So he, along with Hanuman, recite Lord Ramachandra's glories in Kimpurusha Varsha. It's land which is far north of us. Then back to the purport 196, I think it was. So then Bharadvaj, he is one of the 7 great rishis and was present at the time of the birth ceremony of Arjuna. The powerful rishi sometimes undertook severe penances on the shore of the Ganges, and his ashrama is still celebrated at Prayagadham. It is learned that this rishi, while taking a bath in the Ganges, happened to meet Gritachi, one of the beautiful society girls of heaven, and thus he discharged semen, which was kept and preserved in an earthen pot, and from which Drona was born. So Dronacharya is the son of Bharadvaj Muni. Others say that Bharadvaj, the father of Drona, is a different person from Maharshi Bharadvaj. He was a great devotee of Brahma. Once he approached Dronacharya and requested him to stop the battle of Kurukshetra. Then Pipalad is also mentioned in that list of the personalities who can understand the inconceivable potencies of the Lord in Srimad Bhagavatam 2:7, 43 through 45. Then Aurva. So this excerpt comes from the 9th canto, chapter 8 summary. So all of that chapter will mention Aurva. And this little bit of the summary will give a summary of some of his pastimes. So Bahuka, the son of Vrika, was greatly disturbed by his enemies, and therefore he left home with his wife and went to the forest. When he died there, his wife wanted to accept the principles of sati, dying with her husband, but when she was about to die, a sage named Aurva found that she was pregnant and forbade her to do so. The co-wives of this wife of Bahuka gave her poison with her food, but still her son was born with the poison. The son was therefore named Sagara. Sa means with, and Gara means poison. Following the instructions of the great sage Aurva, King Sagara reformed many clans, including the Yavanas, Shakas, Haihayas, and Barbaras. The king did not kill them, but reformed them. Then, again, following the instructions of Aurva, King Sagara performed Ashvamedha sacrifices, but the horse needed for such a sacrifice was stolen by Indra, the king of heaven. So Aurva was very instrumental in the pastimes of Sagara, both his birth and all of his activities. Then we have Kavisha. He was one of the many priests that Maharaj Yudhishthir invited to the Rajasuya sacrifice to perform different activities. And then back to the 196 purport. So Badarayana, this is Vyasadeva. He is known as Krishna, Krishna Dvaipayana, Satyavati Sutta, Parasarya, Maj, Badarayana, Vedavyas, etc. He was the son of Mahamuni Parasara in the womb of Satyavati prior to her betrothal with Maharaj Shantanu, the father of the great general, grandfather Bhishmadev. He is a powerful incarnation of Narayan. And and he broadcasts the Vedic wisdom to the world. As such, Vyasadeva is offered respects before one chants the Vedic literatures, especially the Puranas. Shukadev Goswami was his son, and rishis like Vaishampayana were his disciples for different branches of the Vedas. He is the author of the great epic Mahabharata and the great transcendental literature Bhagavatam. The Brahma Sutras, the Vedanta Sutras, or the Badarayana Sutras, were compiled by him. Amongst sages, he is the most respected author by dint of severe penances. When he wanted to record the great epic Mahabharata for the welfare of all people in the age of Kali, he was feeling the necessity of a powerful writer who could take up this dictation. By the order of Brahmaji, Sri Ganeshji took up the charge of noting down the dictation on the condition that Vyasadeva would not stop dictation for a moment. The Mahabharata was thus compiled by the joint endeavor of Vyasa and Ganesh. By the order of his mother Satyavati, who was later married to Maharaj Shantanu, and by the request of Bhishmadev, the eldest son of Maharaj Shantanu by his first wife, the Ganges, he begot 3 brilliant sons whose names are Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. The Mahabharata was compiled by Vyasadeva after the battle of Kurukshetra and after the death of all the heroes of Mahabharata. It was first spoken in the royal assembly of Maharaj Janamejai, the son of Maharaj Parikshit. And finally, Narad Muni. Narad Muni is inevitably associated with the narrations of the Puranas. He is described in the Bhagavatam. In his previous life, he was the son of a maidservant, but by good association with pure devotees, he became enlightened in devotional service. And in the next life, he became a perfect man, comparable with himself only. In the Mahabharata, his name is mentioned in many places. He is the principal Devarshi, or chief sage among demigods. He is the son and disciple of Brahmaji, and from him the disciplic succession in the line of Brahma has been spread. He initiated Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and many celebrated devotees of the Lord. He initiated even Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedic literatures, and from Vyasadeva, Madhvacharya was initiated, and thus all the Madhva Sampradaya, in which the Gaudiya Sampradaya is also included, has spread all over the universe. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belonged to this Madhva Sampradaya. Therefore, Brahmaji, Narad, Vyas, down to Madhva, Chaitanya, and the Goswamis all belonged to the same line of disciplic succession. Naradaji has instructed many kings from time immemorial. In the Bhagavatam, we can see that he instructed Prahlad Maharaj while he was in the womb of his mother, and he instructed Vasudeva, father of Krishna, as well as Maharaj Yudhishthira. Okay, so that ends the description of those personalities from that other purport. So, today we read a long list of very great personalities. They're all highly revered. They're highly qualified individuals. Of course, each of them we could speak for much longer. You know, when we read these summaries, we read of these amazing things that they've accomplished. and each of them, like I said, we could speak about for such a long time, speak about their glories. But what's important here is that all of these personalities who we would like to hear about and hear from, they're all gathering to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And this is what's important for us, because for us, you know, we read a list of names, and so, okay, we get to know some of these personalities, and that's very good. But a more important, more valuable lesson for us is to understand that these great personalities are all coming together to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And so how glorious is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam if this group of individuals is coming together to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, then we also should be very interested in hearing and paying attention and actually learning how to apply the principles that are given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So obviously this list of great personalities, since we saw in today's purport, it was referring back to 196, which is when another group of personalities, some of the same ones and some also different ones, were also gathering to hear Bhishma Dev also preach about Krishna Bhakti. So we see that this is a recurring thing. These great personalities, wherever there's a discussion on Krishna Bhakti, they come and they listen. So there are a few things that we can meditate on when coming across a list like this. So one, like I said, all these personalities who are worthy of hearing from, they're coming to listen. So also we should listen. So we've already discussed that part. Another thing that we can meditate on with these verses is that these great personalities, right, they're all flocking to these auspicious moments and circumstances, not just in the situation of Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadev Goswami, but also Bhishma Dev's instructions. We find it also in other times in the Bhagavatam, where all these great personalities will come and hear and then offer their prayers. So from this, we can understand what it is that great personalities flock to, what attracts them, right? And we can use this as a meditation to see, all right, what do I flock to, right? So what they flock to says a lot about them. They're always coming to hear about Krishna's pastimes. But what do we spontaneously flock to? Do we seek out whenever there's Bhagavad Gita all the time? Or is there sometimes other things that attract us, and then we go and flock to those things, whether it's maybe it's some mundane musical group or other entertainment. But what is it that we that we flock to? So that'll say about us, a lot about us, just like it says a lot about us. So we can learn from these personalities, and we can learn from our own behavior where our priorities lie, where their priorities lie. And if we're inspired, we can follow in these great personalities' footsteps, and we can adjust our consciousness, redirect our consciousness. So instead of being attracted to these mundane things that we're attracted to, we can hear from them and also hear from those who they're hearing from, and figure out a way to alter that consciousness, to change that consciousness, to purify that consciousness, to uncover the various layers of conditioning, to get back to that pure consciousness of just being attracted to hearing about Krishna's pastime. So that's another meditation that we can do. We can see that these great personalities, they're flocking to this, and then we can identify, okay, well, what do I flock to? And then, you know, they can help us make that adjustment. Then I also wanted to point out that not only are they coming to listen, because we already established that the people who are worthy of being listened to are coming to listen, but not only are they coming to listen, but their mood, we also can identify the mood. So it's not just that they're attracted to, okay, this is a nice situation, let's hear what's being let's hear what's being said here. But their mood is also that they just want to hear Pardon me. They just want to hear the transcendental message. Pardon me. Sorry, there's a lot of pollen in the air. So their mood is that they want to hear the transcendental message. They want to hear Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Katha. Now, generally, in our material conditioning, we see that we may be attracted to go to the proper places, the temple, for example, or kirtans, or sadhu sangha retreats, or rath yatras, or things like that. But if our mentality isn't like these saintly persons, which is just to hear from the transcendental, from the other devotees and understand the Krishna Katha, if our mood instead, for example, one might say, because we know the circumstance, we've been reading this pastime for quite a bit of time, so we know what has occurred. So maybe with material conditioning, we could show up to this particular circumstance and say, hey, actually this Maharaj Parikshit, he was wrong. He took a dead snake and he put it on the Brahmana, and he shouldn't have done that. And if he wouldn't have done that, then we wouldn't have to be worried about this snake bird that's coming in a week. And they could be debating like that. And then maybe some other side would say, yeah, but Shringi, he acted on an impulse. He was given false information. He thought that his father was dead, that it was a live snake. And, there could be this debate going on, and they could be arguing over whether this situation could have been avoided, right? But they don't do that. They're just understanding that whatever the situation is, whatever the external situation is, right now, Krishna Katha is happening. That's what the result is. If the result is that Krishna Katha is happening, then we don't have to worry about any of the other external circumstances. We don't have to debate about it. We don't have to discuss about it. We don't have to determine anything else. All the external circumstances are inconsequential if actual Krishna Katha is taking place. So if the Krishna Katha is taking place, regardless of the circumstances, we just hear, all right? And so that's what these personalities were doing. They weren't having these debates or discussions, or they weren't passing judgments. They weren't there to witness the drama unfold. They weren't like, oh, snakebird in a week? Okay, yeah, no, I'd like to see that. That's not something you see every day, flying snake coming in and burning someone to ashes. So that's not their mood. So not only do we have to identify within ourselves what we're attracted to, flocking to, what sort of situations that we're spontaneously attracted to gathering on, but also why we're attracted to those things. Are we attracted because we want to hear that Krishna Katha, or are we attracted because due to our material conditioning, we're attracted to different types of drama or different types of, debates or political, whatever the case may be. So we should see what our mood is, not just what we're attracted to, but why we're attracted to these things, right? So what we're attracted to, it says something about our character, but why we're attracted to these things says something about our consciousness, right? So just because we're attracted to proper things doesn't necessarily mean that our consciousness is proper. So in conclusion, it's because we spoke a lot, so I'm going to wrap this up, but hopefully I'll just wrap this up very, very neatly. So in conclusion, we should take note of the things that we're spontaneously attracted to, right? So the list of great souls in this verse are attracted to hearing Bhagavad Gita. So we should take note of the things that we are spontaneously attracted to ourselves, not others. We shouldn't judge others. Oh, they're always going to this and that and the other thing, so therefore they're not. No, we don't do that. We do it for ourselves because we don't know anyone else's consciousness. So we take note of the things that we're spontaneously attached to, and also the reason that we're attached to these things or attracted to these things. Then the next step is that we have to assess whether maintaining this pattern of behavior is what we ultimately want, or if it's just causing more problems, right? So if I'm attached to, let's just say, a materialistic music group, I like the way they sound, right? And if I see that, okay, ultimately that's actually not helping my Krishna consciousness, it's just causing more trouble. I have to work to get to the, it's a thing. So we have to assess, okay, is this actually helping in my eternal situation in bhakti, or is this, hindering me? Is this holding me back from something? So then if we've realized, okay, well, yeah, this is something that may be holding me back, then we should then identify which types of things are actually worthy of developing a healthy attachment for, right? And for the correct reasons, and how they contribute to our eternal benefit, right? So we identify, okay, this thing that I'm attracted to, it's not actually helping in my Krishna consciousness. So therefore, let's try to identify things that actually can help in our Krishna consciousness. Then, next step, we should come up with a solid plan on how to cultivate those healthy attachments, right? So now we know which attachments will actually help us. Now we have to understand how we can actually cultivate those healthy attachments. That being said, it's a very good idea to follow in the footsteps of those who already have those healthy attachments, right? So those personalities, like as we are instructed in Bhagavad Gita 4:34, we should humbly and submissively inquire from those people who have seen the truth and offer them a service to show our appreciation for the knowledge that they're giving us, right? And then finally, so that's the next step. And then finally, we should, after identifying this and then making a solid plan on how to follow in the footsteps of these great sadhus, then we should relentlessly pursue this with unceasing determination, right? So it's a constant evaluation, constant assessment that we have to do. And as we do this, we should take note of the results, right? So we should see, is this helping? Is this not helping? So if we're constantly making these assessments and we're making note of them, then we can see which things are actually helping in our Krishna consciousness and which things are holding us back. Pardon me. So I will stop here and see if there are any questions or comments or corrections or matters of discussions, or if anybody wants to say anything about any of these great personalities. Anything like that.
One of the things I was thinking is not just looking within to see what it is we are attracted to, but to also be very honest about it. I went to Sadhu Sangha, and so I can, just look at all of those things. But to be very honest, that's a very good point. When I went to Sadhu Sangha, what was my consciousness? What is it that I was attracted to? What is it I did over there? It's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not.
One of the things I was thinking about about Vishwamitra, when I was growing up, we've always heard about this pastime of Vishwamitra and Menaka and Bhasmasura. And so where did all of those come from? I never researched. I just always, I used to dance Bharatanatyam. That was one of the dances we used to do. So do you just use the Bhagavatam as your resource when you're looking up these things? Because that may have just been a fiction that was written up.
Yeah, generally I just stick to the Bhagavatam. There are rare circumstances where some of these pastimes, if you want to get some more of the details, you can look elsewhere, because the other literatures are also authorized if you're actually getting them from a Purana. But the focus won't necessarily be as much on bhakti. So if first we understand what we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, because we know that the focus will always be on bhakti. It will always be bringing that back to devotional service, right? That's the whole point of the Bhagavat Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam. But just to personally understand some of these some of these individuals, we can, if for some reason we're attracted to their particular mood or whatever, but we should always see those in terms of how they're connected in Srimad Bhagavatam to, you know, because there are other aspects in their lives which may not have been so connected. So we may be able to relate to those aspects, but we should bring them in line, just like they did in Srimad Bhagavatam, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, generally that's the case. Because yeah, with things like Bharatanatyam dancing and things like that, they're more interested in the drama of the story. Now, of course, you can also convey the message of bhakti through the stories of dance as well. But sometimes for entertainment purposes, they'll also, you know, go for the, like when we hear of, you know, the characters in the Mahabharata war, for us, it's the Bhagavad Gita, it's Bhishma Dev's final words, it's, you know, whatever's given in Srimad Bhagavatam. But if we read Mahabharata, we can get more juicy details, right? And those are the things that you'll dance, you know, dance about, because the, you know, all the different love stories and the drama. And so it's there. It can be something that we read like that, but it should always be brought back to Krishna Bhakti. And that is what's done in Srimad Bhagavatam. If that makes sense. And then what you were mentioning about we have to be honest with ourselves and what the mood is at some of these festivals. I'll just share a story. So one year, this would have been maybe 6-7 years ago, maybe even longer. New Vrindavan has these 24-hour kirtans. And I think they used to have like 2 a year. I don't know if they still have 2 a year, but anyway. One of them, there were a group of devotees who came up with a suggestion because they noticed that at some of these festivals, although it's a 24-hour kirtan festival, for many devotees, it's just a social gathering. You know, they're outside and they're just talking to one another, gossiping, and some are talking Krishna Katha, sure, but you know, we'll call it a mixed crowd with different motivations. And I'm not saying if you're not in the kirtan, then what's the point of being there? That's not it at all. Any gathering with devotees is nice. So there were a group of devotees who came up with an idea that, and it would be an optional thing. It's not for everyone, but it's an optional thing that if you only want to focus on the holy name, because it's a holy name festival, you wear a special bracelet that shows that you're basically taking a Mauna Vrata. The only words that are going to come out of your mouth are the Hare Krishna mantra, right? And so if you're wearing that bracelet, it just means that if someone who hasn't seen you in a while and they want to catch up, they see, okay, well, not during this time, because, you know, they want to be absorbed in the holy name. And so maybe later after the kirtan part is over and everyone's still around a little bit, then we can talk and catch up, something like that, which is a good idea. But some people took it the wrong way. They were, oh, well, you know, what? So then, you know, I can't talk to my friend who, you know, but if that's what the choice is, if that's what they want to focus on for that period of time, or even, you know, they could wear the bracelet for one of the days and then take it off for another day when they want to be more social. It wasn't actually a problem, but some people took it as almost an insult. Like, oh, so me going to the kirtan to you know, see people I haven't seen in a long time, that's not a good thing. But that's not what the intention was. So we see that even those who with good intention are trying to, you know, themselves just be more focused, you end up almost offending other people. So yeah, we have to we should be conscious when we go to these events that we're actually focusing on Krishna consciousness. If we're not, it doesn't mean we shouldn't be going to the events. We should still be going to them because something is rubbing off on us, but we should be gradually getting deeper and deeper into what's actually going on there. Now, there are so many things to take advantage of. There's the kirtan, there's the actual sadhu sangha, there's seva, there's service. Like some devotees just go to these events, they just cook. That's all they do. They don't hear the kirtan, they don't talk to their friends. They go there and they're cooking for thousands of devotees, right? And they're Prabhupada disciples that do this. They travel around and they just cook, right? And how much glory should they be getting? They're cooking for the deities and all of the devotees. Just think of how much spiritual benefit they're getting. So it's not that you should do one, a specific thing. There's so many things that you could do, but whichever one you're doing, you should do it in a focused way. Right. So all of these things can be done focused, and all of them can be, you could be sitting in the room with the kirtan and completely be distracted also, and you can be outside and be absorbed. Right. So it's not where you're at, it's, what your consciousness is on and where you're at. So these are important things that we have to identify and then try to cultivate in ourselves. And again, and we should try not to, make others feel in any negative way whatsoever, because because this is what we tend to do. We find something that's true for us. We learn a lesson for ourselves, right? And then all of a sudden we expect everyone else to have that same lesson already learned, right? So if I, the common example we won't even talk about an example in devotee culture. We'll talk about it in material culture because we don't want to offend anyone. So if someone has given up smoking, right? And then anytime they see someone, what are you doing? This is such a bad thing. But you were also a smoker, right? And we tend to, just act in such a, anyway, it's such a strange way that we think that everyone else should, but then there are other things mistakes that we're committing that someone else isn't, and they're not demanding that we, why are you being such a fool? So, but we tend to do that. So we have to understand that we each have our own unique mistakes that we're committing, and we also have our own unique things that we actually have connected. And that's the value of sadhu sangha, is I have weaknesses and I have some strengths. And so another devotee has maybe the exact opposite. So we can help each other out, because my strength might help their weakness and their strength might help my weakness, right? And that's what sadhu sangha is all about, that we can come together and we can support one another, learn from each other's strengths, right? And if we do that, then we're going to be in good shape. And if we fail to do that, then we're just living our material life.
Yeah, I was just thinking, that bracelet thing, it could also be, oh my goodness, if I don't put that bracelet on, then people will think that I am I'm here only to gossip, and put it on for the wrong reason. I think the point is being very honest with yourself. And at Sadhu Sangha, I enjoyed, I did not take on any service. I just, I was going to just listen to Kirtan. But then it was Sachinandan Swami saying the holy name, pay attention to the name, relish the name. But was it the name that I was relishing? Was I enjoying the music? Was it, so it was just a lot of thinking. Again, like you said, it's not a question of right or wrong, and I shouldn't worry about who is better than me, and am I better than somebody, or things like that. But to be honest with yourself and understand that we're trying to become better devotees, and we need to do what we need to do to become better devotees. Krishna knows where we are, how bad we are or how good we are. There's no lying to him. So Mother Vindhyavali has her hand up.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandal Pranam, Shalguru Sri Prabhupada.
Joy.
Yeah, like you said, that Bhagavad Gita, the 34, 434, Tadvidi Pranipatena Patiprashnena Sevaya. So, like that, the path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly, it's very difficult. And I also had been there in the Sadhu Sangha. I enjoyed the Kirtan, the way youngsters are dancing, which I couldn't do. The way they were, till 10 o'clock in the night, they were still dancing. And I enjoyed the music. And then my mind went to these gurus, these elderly persons, they were all dancing on the stage. So I was saying, oh God, I'm seeing them. And I said, how much they are involved in that kirtan and how they are dancing. So that is one thing. And another thing, like you said, I went into the kitchen, I tried to do the service. But and then I did some service that happy. I was satisfied with that. And half of these things, sadhu sangha, like that, I had different places my feeling went to in the sadhu sangha. And lectures, I don't have anything, but only the music, and they were singing Harinam. They were singing Hare Krishna mantra, Mahamantra. I enjoyed for a while that. So that was my sadhu sangha, the feeling, how I felt is that. And then like this, no, we need to Dharmat Sakshat Bhagavad Pranitam, like, so these things we have to, the 34, the text 34 was saying that, all these rishis and Vishwamitra, Parasara Munis, all those information, the way you are telling, it is so important. And the way we listen, we have to pay attention to that, and how many times they are married or whatever, how many kids they have. If we go that way, that is a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we have to go that way, spiritual way, how they did for this Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, that's how they did, like that Munis, for Rama and other people, how they helped Bhishma Deva. Those are the things, we need to pay attention a lot. And that is again the path of spiritual realization is, actually, it's very difficult. It takes long time. And we need a guru for that. And guru is the person who initiated, but the guru is the person who we can ask him take this thing. So that's what my realization. That's from Sadhu Sangha, from your all these munis you said. What is that? Parasurama and Angirasa and all the munis he said. There's a lot of things to know. It's not that easy.
Mm.
But there's no way that I don't have enough time, of course, according to my age. But I'm thinking, I'm trying my best.
Very good.
Thank you very much for the nice class.
Hare Krishna. One thing I was just wondering about King Sage Vasista. He tried to commit suicide so many times. I'm thinking when somebody disturbs somebody, like you got so desperate, want to commit suicide. We have seen in our devotee community also a lot of devotees committed suicide.
Mm.
So I'm just thinking even great sage like him, he cannot tolerate being harassed by other devotees.
Mm.
But I'm just wondering, how can great sage like that, they want just to leave the bodies. They know what suicide is not. We learn from the scripture that, suicide is not a good thing, So what would you say about it?
Yeah. Well, we know it's not a good thing because we don't just have a gross body, we have a subtle body. And so getting rid of the gross body doesn't get rid of the problem because we still have the subtle body. So then we'll have to take another gross body. But if with suicides, generally, since your consciousness at the time of death is to get rid of that gross body, that means you have to just remain in a subtle body without a gross body for quite a while. That means a ghost. So that's quite unfortunate. There are circumstances, if one has the proper consciousness and the very precise circumstance, that it is actually even advised. But that is just if basically nowadays it's not recommended, because if one doesn't really have that level of consciousness or understanding. So it's not advised for the reason I said before. Now, in this circumstance, he felt that being alive was a detriment, but Krishna showed him that no, you can't kill yourself. You can't do it, right? He tried. He jumps off of a cliff and lands on cotton. He jumps in the ocean. He gets pushed ashore. So, because he had such a deep appreciation of Krishna, that means Krishna has a deep appreciation of him. But we shouldn't try these things to see how dear we are to Krishna. We should just make sure that we're becoming more and more dear to Krishna. And the motive there wasn't because, so most people that try to commit suicide these days, it's because they get depressed, and they feel it's more about them. They're more self-conscious about the reason why they're doing it. And with this, then it's not about them, it's about their Krishna consciousness. So it's a tough discussion to have, because just looking at the externals, one can become very confused by it. We even have an example. I won't tell the story, but there is an example of a very famous example of a devotee who heard about a situation where it would be advisable to actually that you could actually leave your body, and he did just that, and then later the other devotees found out that it was more of a misunderstanding, that it shouldn't have done that. So we have these examples and we can see these, but again, it's these things are hard to have a discussion about, because generally we get lost in the details, not the principle. And so with a conversation like this, it's even more important to see all the way down to the principle. So with other things with details, like for example, vegetarianism, right? That's a detail of a principle to only eat things that are offered to Krishna. So with that, for a while, if you're missing the detail, it's not the biggest issue, because eventually you can get there, right? Eventually you'll get there. But with this discussion, suicide, if you misunderstand the detail and act, then you have to wait, till another life until you can actually rectify that. So I mean, eventually, still, yes, you can get to the bottom of that, to the principle. But does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to talk too much on it, because like I said, it could get confusing and it could be taken the wrong way. But those who have done it, even like these sati rituals, those who do it with the right consciousness actually are elevated. Those who are forced to do it and they don't have the right consciousness, obviously they're not going to be elevated. So that's why now it's not even a thing, because it was used in an improper way. So is that to say that it shouldn't ever even be done? No, if you're in a situation and it works out and it's not forced and it's an actual connected feeling, then then it could be a thing that you could do. But again, it has to be down to the principle, not the detail. It shouldn't be thinking of the detail and then just following it blindly. That could be a really long discussion. I think that's probably all I should say on that now, if that's okay. Hopefully that was okay.
Meantime, Kalpesh Prabhu has his hand up.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept. Prabhuji, as usual, just had a small question in my head, which was popping up. We kind of know sometime what all the discussion happened and what Mataji also said. I completely agree. being honest with yourself and telling truth to yourself is the first way of realizing it. Sometimes when we recognize a problem or a mistake, not for others, for our own self, and the tendency which is running mostly in the mind is for me it is like I try to justify it. How am I doing correct? And at the same time, not every time. It's very difficult to tell because of the past conditioning and the way the whole education system and what we have learned how to live a life. All those have corrupted our mind significantly. In my case, so now the thing is now just knowing the truth and also telling the truth to yourself is also a big challenge. The truth which I know is not the ultimate truth also sometimes. And when we are not in that situation, and what is holding us back, to find that also, and at the same time what we know, what is truth, or we kind of understand this is the truth also, and we try to justify it and we try to not really work on it. So I think like so if somebody is not watching me, and if I have not taken a surrender to that person, like or a guru or anything like that, so it's very difficult. Like if he has to tell me again and again, that this is the right way of doing it, and somebody who can tell me is like also like they may want to see my whole, like they may want to see my 24 hours how I spend, then only I think so. So I have those kind of difficulty, like okay, if I am trying to understand what the right thing is to do and what is the real motivation behind it, I have to work on it. So I just want to like to know like how does the senior devotee identifies methods that being honest to themselves, they are trying to find that I'm trying to be honest to myself, and then what is holding back in the Krishna consciousness, and how they work on improving those. If you can tell like what the general way of looking at it, or it could be like any particular example for your life, if you have came across this same thing, what is holding you back, probably maybe we kind of, I have the tendency to justify, no, everything is okay. But
Yeah.
not taking me anywhere because I'm not doing the effort. I'm not going incremental like 100%, 110% effort, 120% effort, because effort has to increase, right, in the endeavor.
Yeah. So as far as this is what we do, we tend to justify things because we don't want to be wrong, right? We may want to do wrong things, but we don't want to be wrong, right? So this is our tendency. And the way to break free from that tendency is with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, right? Which is Shastra, Shastra, and Shastra. So it's Shastra in three different forms. It's the Guru only speaks according to Shastra and gives those instructions. The Shastra is the Shastra, and the Sadhus also act according to Shastra. So, but they're different. It's all Shastra, but it doesn't mean that you just go to the Shastra then, but you have to have all these aspects, because the sadhus can show you how to apply it, and the guru can cut through and give you specific instructions, right? So all of these are necessary, all three versions of the Shastra. And when we give proper attention to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, then we actually know what's right and wrong. It's not that we do whatever we would naturally do and then justify it by looking, and this is what we tend to do in the beginning, is we just act naturally how we would normally act no matter what. And then we try to find justification in the Shastra that will support that, right? And then we'll take it out of context and we'll sort of skew the meaning a little bit so it leans toward making us sound like we're okay. And you can do that, right? I've seen so many neophyte devotees with materialistic ideas support those materialistic ideals with quotes from Shastra. You can do that. It's not the proper way to do that, though. The proper way to approach Shastra is to understand that I don't actually know anything. And if I want knowledge, I have to get it from Shastra, right? And even the things I think I know that I've experienced, I'm still not sure if that's actually reality or not until it's verified by Shastra. Then when it's verified, then, okay, now I understand that. And then I also understand it in the context, because the context of every single thing in Shastra is its relationship to Krishna and how it should be properly used. That's what Shastra is trying to tell us. So, and everything that we that we encounter can be used in Krishna's service. It's not that there is a thing that exists that is just absolutely not able to be engaged in Krishna. Everything is made from Krishna, so everything can be used in Krishna's service. So whatever we're naturally attracted to, we can use that in Krishna's service. We just have to figure out how, and that's by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. The Shastra will tell us, but if we approach Shastra with the wrong mood, it won't tell us. It won't reveal that to us if that's not our determination. If our determination is to justify our behavior, then Shastra will say, okay, you could do that. But if you actually want to know the truth, then Shastra will reveal that to us. And then the Guru is there to cut through our, because we also try to make these justifications with the Guru. We'll go to the Guru and we'll say, okay, well, I want to do like this because I think for my Krishna consciousness, this is the best thing. And we'll even give quotes from Shastra. But the Guru knows, no, actually, you're just doing this for this reason. So instead you do this. So the Guru gives us instruction, right? And then, so that's the more direct thing. But then the sadhus, then we can learn also from their example. They may not be as cutting as the Guru, but they're living their lives according to Shastra, so that we can observe and we can learn from their examples. And we can take, there's not just one Guru. There's the initiating Guru, but there's also the Shiksha Gurus. So a lot of times the sadhus are also Shiksha Gurus. So sometimes in a particular instance, they can also cut through like the Guru does. But in a general sense, we learn from the behaviors of how they have applied Shastra, and then we can support one another in that particular way. So that's how we stop justifying our misbehaviors, is learning what are the actual behaviors that I should be learning. Then we attach ourselves to those devotees who have attained that. We inquire from them submissively and humbly. We offer them service to reciprocate the exchange of knowledge. And if we do that, then we, like I said, we can cultivate these healthy attachments, not the ones that are keeping us bound to the material world, but the ones that will actually liberate us back to the spiritual world. Did that completely answer your question?
Yeah.
Enough? Okay, good enough for now.
Something clear, because you are in that state. I'm not there, but I have points to think about it, and maybe I will be there at one point if I endeavor on that direction.
Maybe I'll be there too. Okay, so we've gone over quite a bit. Thank you everyone for sticking around. Oh, look at Mother Vindyavali's nice henna. That looked beautiful.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Chair Ginger, for a great class.
Thank you.